Alright. So this is going to be a little bit of a different thing that we're going to take on here today. Because I don't actually have a specific template to build, but I was just having a look at this and thought that I might actually have something cool to build out of it. So I'm going to kind of the direct opposite of my hyper time lapse I did of the checkpoint build. This is really just going to be me building a template pretty slowly, and we're just going to kind of walk through the decisions I'm making and kind of why I'm making them. And it's probably going to be pretty boring. It's probably going to go for a while. I don't have commitments here for like a solid 2 hours, so we're just going to have a bit of a play around in Eden, and we're going to just see what happens. So what we've got here is we've got like a bit of a two-way fucking intersection, and I kind of want to build a little, compound kind of thing in here where these trees are. So we're going to just go ahead and get rid of those to kick this off. I don't think there's anything else I'm going to hit, but I really only want to hide trees. So I'll set that up now just to make sure.
Still want more of all the great tunes sung by the Commodore and feel the world is moving just a tad too fast.
Okay, so I think let's take out that tree as well, just in case. I think that should be good. When I'm working with systems like this, I always create a new layer for them and then lock it, just so you don't have the massive fucking grey circly deal hanging around, basically. And then I want to use these concrete walls, the tall ones, because they basically, I don't have a reason for it, I just never have a real purpose for them. Because we're usually building with, like, you know, ESCOs and that kind of thing. So what I'm going to do first is I'm kind of just going to really quickly kind of smack some objects down to figure out kind of rough dimensions more than anything else, and then we'll get into actually kind of how I align them and make them pretty and all that kind of stuff. So, but it's good if you know how many you want before you get started making them too pretty, so that way they're all good to go at the same time. So I think like it feels like the sort of size I want. So then I grab everything and I control numpad 8, which aligns them all north. And then we come into the line pattern tool. Let's just try 8 because they are in theory 8 meter walls. So they might actually be 8 meter spaced, which looks like they are not because we've got overlap here. But we only have overlap on the gate, which is somewhat tolerable, but vaguely annoying. So we're going to try and space them out a little bit more, because we've got pillars and stuff we can cover holes with. So that's too big to cover with a pillar, so we'll go 8.2, and then I'll have to manually fix the gate. And with everything selected, I just want to try and get them all lined up. As best as you can anyway, because the road's obviously not going to be dead straight, the ground's not going to be dead flat and all that kind of good stuff, so just replying to text messages at the same time because multitasking. And then we want to grab these two. I want to space them out for the gate portion. Now again, because I have pillars, they don't have to be super precise. I'm just kind of trying to use the camera to my advantage so that I can really see what it is I'm working. And then yeah, we got spacing on the top side here, or spacing issues I guess I should say. I also noticed that the wall is set back a little bit on the gate object for whatever reason. Even though it's a sliding gate, because the that's the way it goes. So it is what it is. And then so we'll get some pillars sorted out. So we're gonna need like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. What I'm going to leave out until I actually have the back wall in, because that's just going to be far too annoying otherwise. And then you sort of want to try and you want to bring it forward as much as you can so that you don't get those weird like overlap rendering issues. You want to make sure that it's kind of fully covering the joint on both sides. Now one thing we are going to have to look at too is that this gate, when it's open, see that's going to clip into the pillar, which is a no-go. So you need to make sure that it's out of the way. But it's actually going to clip into the rest of that fence as well, by the looks of things. So I actually just need to pull that out just the tiniest bit. The bottom weld was like just clipping it. The way I always look at it is you can never take this stuff too quickly. You want to sort of take your time and make sure that everything is joined up just right, because especially for kind of what we do as the 506, like, you know, hashtag realism, you know what I mean? It's all part of the picture. So. Cool, that one's in there. Now that I have moved that fence a little bit, just move this down a little bit, make sure he is still good to go. And the alignment on that gate a little annoying. But yeah, that's okay, it is what it is. Perfect, just like a built one. Okay, cool. And then if we take this gate and we close it again, now this time at least we've got a solid stop, so we know where the gate's gonna close to, but we just want to make sure that it all looks the part. And again, I'm going to take this guy out until I need it. So basically now, rinse and repeat for the other walls. Now, good thing is I'm really only going to have to build this kind of once, because copy and paste is a thing. But we'll kind of quickly smack some walls in here. Again, pillars will kind of... the model making term is hide the crimes. So, you know, any little bits of fluff or any little misalignment issues or whatever, you can use the pillars to mask that pretty well. So there I got 4 of those. Now this is going to go a lot better as far as line tool is concerned, because I can set that to just a straight 8, and then I'm going to get myself a perfectly aligned, perfectly overlapped wall. Now, you know, I could, let me just control 8 those again. I could set those to, you know, like 8.1, so that I had a little bit of a gap, just to prevent any clipping issues. That would work fine too. Now this is the bit where my OCD just super kicks in. So that's a 321, and I want to come off 90 degrees to that. So realistically, I want to be running at 231 degrees, which I will set 1 to as my. Except I changed the wrong freaking wall. That's what I did. So they're at 233. So 31. Now that does kind of fuck the wall a little bit, but it's not too bad, because at least this way I know that it's going to be straight. Because for me it's more important to have that as a really nice corner and kind of have to manually realign bits than have it perfectly aligned by the line pattern tool, but also have to go back and I guess try and line it up by eye, because I'm really terrible at lining shit up by eye, especially as far as angles are concerned. It's just not something I think the human brain is particularly well geared for, at least mine isn't. So that's why you'll see I use the camera a lot and kind of get right into it, just because I feel like it's not going to be right otherwise. And it's also just important to note too that like if you do drag stuff from the front face, it will change its kind of. It's not necessarily the Z axis in this point, like, you know, because we got Y that way and Y that way and X that way. But if you change one, it'll change the others. So that's kind of that, though, realistically. And then we can put our corner pillar in. And now this is, again, it's one of those situations where I do know what that number is, so I could type that in to give us a nice proper corner pillar. And just again making sure that all the joints are covered by that pillar before moving on. And now that we have our perfectly 231 degree pillar, I'd be able to pop him down and know that he is in the right place. Now, if I was to be super OCD about it, we would make sure that the front lip on these pillars is the same. But I also kind of have a little bit of the position of if someone files a freaking bug report that the pillar overlap was not even, I'm going to remind them to shoot things instead of criticizing my architecture. And then last corner pillar here, I will have to leave it because I need a back wall first. So we will grab these guys, including that corner pillar, and paste them. Now I'm going to actually do the back wall first. I do that because this gate, as we know, is not a perfect width, right? These are an 8-meter concrete wall, but this is not necessarily. So the width on the back wall is always going to be tricky when you've got a gate object in your front wall, because they're never the right size. I mean, not never, but basically never. Cool. So then I have 2 of my 3 walls. Now I'm going to paste down another one and line it up so that because I have that back corner pillar sitting there, and so I'm going to come into this with a pillar on this side ready to go. Which means I have to go that way. Now this I can a little more line up by eye, because I can again use the camera to my advantage, come right out of it, and try and get that sort of right. Now there are better ways of doing that, but that is the quickest way. It's slightly less precise, but it works for me. Rather than using the proper rotation tools and what have you, because I just find those slower. I'm going to have a little bit of overlap here, but I think that's pillarable. So now though we end up in this really neat-tastic situation though, where what I actually need to do is get rid of that wall and put in 2 4-meter walls instead, with a little bit of a gap between each. I have to really extend these overlaps out as far as I can to make up that difference. And we want to just tuck that wall behind that pillar. It'll look like I'm sitting on the ground, but it is, so we're good. I'm gonna grab those two, pop them down again, and I've still ended up short, which is not great, traditionally speaking. Which means I'm gonna have to stretch all my joins out as far as I can. So let's see how much room I can find myself on this side. Actually a fair amount. This is one of those things where there's advantages to tucking everything nice and tight. It gives you plenty of room to stretch where you need to. Which I still need to stretch a lot. I don't think this is gonna happen. But alright. We will give it a go. And then down onto the corner pillar. Okay, so that's all the joins kind of stretched out as far as I can get them, and I still don't have the space I'm looking for. So we're going to take those two. Wow, there was a heap of overlap there. Where did all that overlap come from? And I'm still not going to make it, but that was good. So yeah, we're going to take those two objects, we're going to stick them, take those three and stick them aside. We're going to put another 8 in. And just that overlap there, nice and consistent with everything else. And then I'm going to bring this one out to the corner. I'm going to actually give that a full overlap because the angles may not quite be right. So that means I can pillar everything to cover it up. Essentially that's what's happening. I'm just covering shit up. Sink that back into the pillar. Helps if you grab all three objects, to be honest. Because that's slightly lighter, slightly wider than an 8-meter wall. What I think I'm actually going to do is just clip those two through each other. They blend pretty well. Cool. So I just need to do that corner pillar. Inside's good, the outside looks pretty consistent in terms of that overlap width, so I think we're good to go. So we are going to call this group compound, and we are going to make a new group inside that. We are going to call that systems. We're going to take that transformation away, pop that system in it, and I'm going to grab all these walls and I'm going to throw them into compound. So that they are all nice and locked, I don't have to worry about accidentally dragging those walls out now. Then we're going to come into attributes, I'm going to disable damage and disable simulation. So that means if someone drives into the wall with a fucking truck, the wall's not just going to cartoony fall over like Arma likes to do. It also means that we're going to save on some server frames, because server frames are pretty important to just about everybody in all of Arma ever. Now something you'll almost never see me do is roads, because I mean roads is a whole bunch of trying to understand the stupid naming structure behind some of these roads, so it's pretty irritating. But if I can find the road I'm looking for, so I kind of want see that's too wide. Because this road is an asphalt one. and we can tell it's an asphalt one, so I put down a section, like a 2-meter section of asphalt one, you can clearly see that that is basically the same. It may not be exact, but there you go. It's not an asphalt 2, that's for sure, and it's not a 3. So 1 is the closest. 1 is as close as I'm going to get. It's definitely not that. So, and it's super not gravel. So what I'm trying to find is a crossroads with a ASF1 with something else. And I want it to be a T intersection rather than a 4-way. So that's my struggles right now. But I think it's basically not going to happen. So that T intersection just doesn't exist, basically. You know, because ideally what I'd like is something like this, basically, where you get the city and then it goes into like a little mud track. But with that looking like it's just straight up not going to happen, I might as well grab a little gravel stretch with a little bit of a curve on it, but the gravel stands out a little too much, in my opinion. If we get like a little mud track, that kind of still stands out a lot. Not too bad when you get closer up though. Can I fit another one of those? Oh wait, it makes sense. This is gonna again be one of those situations where we're gonna probably try and bury some stuff, put a building over the end of that or something, just so it doesn't look quite so dense. But let's say we do that. Just go with that for right now. You could spend a significantly larger amount of time on that to try and make something look super nice. But I just don't think it's going to happen. At least not for me, at least not today. So, you know, it's the kind of thing where we can throw a little shack in the corner, and then you'd be pretty fine. Should I thumbs up? I don't actually know if that's what I want to use, but let's find out. I do really like the Tanoa guardhouse. I just think it's a little too modern for being in the middle of the fucking butterfuck nowhere. So the JBAD guardhouse it is. Is this one of the guardhouses with an interior? It is. That's exciting. It's like a little jail cell and all the rest of it. I always hate the amount of space the ruins list takes up, because that's pretty offensive. What do we got? Yeah, the Tanoa stuff is all just going to be too new, that's for sure. But it'd be nice to have some little like a little lean-to thing, but some of these could work too. You'd be amazed how much time you actually spend just scrolling through a list of buildings like this, just looking for just the right thing. Because see, that's a little half shed is really handy. Amazed how much you can use this guy. But unfortunately the building we're lining him up against doesn't really work. And the angle's all kind of wrong. And kind of everything. If we go back to that mud. Wow, words are hard, there we go. What else have we got that could work instead of that mud 2250? Kind of want it with a much steeper bend on it. That could work actually. Let's bring these two back out for editing. And let's get rid of that one. Still looking for... Yes, there we go. A little sharper. You always want to overlap your road textures, especially when when you're working with these kind of like muddy, gravelly textures. You want to make sure you keep them overlapped because they blend together pretty well just with straight up alpha blending. That means you don't then have any like weird gaps because all you'd need to ruin that is there to be just a weird gap in the wrong place. And see, then we can just move our little building out a little bit, and then life will be a little bit simpler across the board. There we go. Gives that a good little bit of breathing space, and then we can go back to hunting for little things to park a car under. That's really actually what I'm looking for here. Like if I get a little... Does no one else have a police anything? Okay. Okay. Perfect. Let's go to this. Yes. Boy. That's kind of what I'm looking for, is a little... one of these. I just want it to have a little something to park under, really. What's the little blue thing called? I don't think I'm gonna find it. Again, we hit the ruins list and I get all excited because all these things sound great. Like, why is there a cart steering it? Like, honestly, who is... Yeah, that blue awning is what I kind of want. Really, actually, not the more I look at it. Tax. Alright, we'll come back to it. I'm clearly not going to find it. I was sent a really great picture by one of the guys in my missions team of a actual like police checkpoint dealio somewhere, and they had this really nice tower on it that kind of looked like this, but it was nowhere near that tall, which is obviously a bit of an issue because that's very clearly a airport control tower, but you know. What other towers do we have? Can anything else work? See, I really think that I want to use this guy, because this is the object I had in mind when I started this whole thing. It's not quite as ridiculously new as the Altus one is. That's a little offensive. Yeah, we had one of these. Take its damage and its sim away right now before I forget about it. Oh, it needs its sim because it's got doors on it. So... actually, the fence is going to need a sim too. Let's do that. Yeah, like I think it's offensively too new, but it's the closest match I think in Arma for what I'm looking for in terms of the shape of the top tower. I just think it's going to happen. I'll title these ruins. I don't really want any of the big, like, concrete kind of cargo towers, you know what I mean? And I could go with, like, one of these ATC towers, but I think everyone knows that as the ATC tower from Cherno, you know what I mean? Like, there's no... Get off, there we go. There's really no mistaking that as ATC. That's the part that I'm not a huge fan of. There's a JBAD variant, which is just a slightly different color. Which we take this guy and put him out of it. Like it's a big building in terms of footprint, and I know that the one I'm talking about is a big building in terms of height. But I mean, it's just taking up too much of my little compound. So let's see if we didn't have to worry about the realism aspect. Just sink that guy down into the ground a little bit, and you have a much more reasonable structure for what I'm looking for. But of course, things armor. But we don't want to do that. So we'll snap you back onto the ground and go over there and be big and scary and imposing. And we'll just have to call it a day at that, basically, because I just think there's really nothing else we're going to do about it. Now there's a dirt pile. That's useful with the ID of a Colton Yap. Good work, guys. Good, great, excellent. Yep. So let's grab. Oh no. Okay, that was not at all what I thought was happening next. The little. No. This is why you'll never see me do roads. Because, like, fuck this shit. I see those are cars. There's a... What is it? A gravel, that's what it is. Pretty sure. Actually, that just reminded me, is there a mud? There is a mud connector. So if you really need extra, like, alpha pixels for blending, the connectors are really good for that. They can give you just that little overlap. Okay. Somewhere in here though, there's like a little, like, gravelly footpath kind of deal. But for the life of me, I obviously can't think of what that is called right now. That's pretty sensational. There it is. Oh, it's called Path. Ah, what a surprise. Something is named what it actually is in Cup. Hilarious. Right, guys. Very much. I'm gonna say that these guys are pretty efficient walkers, and they just walk in pretty well directly. Is the 2250 gonna be way too long? Okay, great. Let's just use the 2250. Just has that slight curve on it. Just makes it a little bit more interesting. And see if then if that truck was parked nose in, you'd like drive in, get out, and basically just like beeline it basically directly to the frickin' door. But the amount of stuff I could have built instead of doing that road, many things. So let's slam him in there as well. Stunning. It's actually kind of nice that we have an A&A group. What else do they have? A little Now, I made a pretty decided effort, I guess, you'd say, that I didn't want to kind of turn this into another, how to build a checkpoint video, because I have one of those. However, there's still going to be a bar gate. There's absolutely still going to be a bar gate. There's only going to be one, though, I think. I think that this checkpoint can actually be a one-way traffic reducing kind of checkpoint. And I'm going to cheat a little bit here for a second. I'm going to grab that. I was actually almost bang on. Well, that's exciting. And then I'm just going to pop that so that the stop sign is basically dead in the middle of the road. I'm going to bring it in a little bit. Similar amounts on both sides if I can. But, something like that. Now, again, these guys, that can all screw off as well. These guys are going to need their simulation still, but I'm going to turn the damage off, and I'm actually going to pre-open them too, just so that they can't get driven over, basically. That's all it is. Just searching concrete in the empty search is like one of my favorite things to do ever. No, it's not city, it's like an obstacle. Yeah, concrete barrier stripes. That looks a little civilian-y. Let's go like one of those there. And that was 321 was the front wall. And kind of want to line this up a little bit if I can. So what have we got? We want that one there to be... Yep, wrong way. Awesome. So 276, there we go. That's 45 degrees less. And if we grab one of those for over here, I always have my calculator open when I'm building stuff, because even if I can do the numbers myself, it means that then on my the second display, my display on my left, I have I just have a record of all of the maths I've had to do in one way, shape or form, so that way I can easily refer back to it. And now that I have this little group of 3 set up, I can flip him over. I don't really need to worry about where I put him down, because I know that the middle needs to line up with the middle of the bar gate. And there we go. Now obviously you could extend that out if you kind of wanted to kind of merge it with the surroundings, so that you have to kind of go through it. But then also you could just drive around the whole fucking thing, which is a possibility, but also not my concern. We're going to go ahead and just assume that the A and A are less good at checkpoints than NATO is. I mean, it's probably not that inaccurate. So again, we want to line that up for the middle. I have a bunch of extra space on this one somehow. How did I position that? Okay, so it's kind of even gaps on both sides. Like, something like that, I guess? That'll probably do. And what I might actually do is pop one of these in and just set it to that 231. Just for this side. Okay. gonna fit on the other side. Just try and make it a little harder to swerve off, I guess. Then we can take all of these barrier stripes. We can disable sim, disable damage. They're done. We can lock those away. Bar gates are done. You guys can go as well. And then all we really need now is some environment-y stuff to try and just flesh this out. What's that gonna look like, I wonder? Let's get a vehicle wreck. I saw this in it was technically an Altus Life video. Don't hate, I wasn't actually doing the Altus Life. I just stumbled across it as someone building an Altus Life template actually, and they were building a checkpoint in Altus Life, and they had a couple of car wrecks around, and I actually thought it looked pretty good. So I might toss in 2 of those, but I'm going to change that one to the one without the bullet. It's a shame they're both white, but what are you going to do? What I'd really like to do is set it like that, and then can you stop doing that? That'd be cool. Try and set it up there like that. Arma being Arma, you'd need that to be at some pretty ridiculous angle, and no one's going to bury half a Hilux, you know what I mean? So, trashed over here, and again just taking that sim, taking that damage away so that A, it doesn't end up flying through space, and B, we just try and save on some server frames. If it doesn't have to process physics for these objects, then that's a substantial win every time. We'll throw those in. Go back to our shed list. This guy works too because of where the door is, so you don't end up have someone, you know, push into that building and then try and open a door just to find themselves facing a concrete wall. I try and avoid that wherever I can. Oh, let's see. That should put it perfectly lined up with everything else. And no, I'm not super worried about the fact that doesn't connect up. That can just be like a storage shed rather than an actual vehicle shed. Because I'm pretty sure... fuck. Okay, well you can fit cars in it, but these guys don't. These guys don't fit cars in them. And it's JBAD, so it's the right sort of colour and everything. Might actually just look through the JBAD categories. Workshops might be better, but the door orientations are wrong. You'd have to put it. I could put it over. Here. Kind of a bit offensive. That could work. And what I really want is a really old little like guard tower. I have no idea what the object's called, is the problem. Find them on Serrani freaking everywhere. So actually being super old, let's go to Cup. Oh, Dragon Teeth. Would have been a good idea. Watchtower. Yes. And these have always looked trash, these watchtowers. They've never... Pretty sure there's not a clean one of these anywhere in existence. So if we grab one of those over here, and let's put one over here somewhere. 51 was the magic number, so that was very close, even though it looked like I was wrong. And this one is going to be 231. Then let's get ourselves a flag for these guys. Do we have... If we have the ANA units, do we have an ANA flag? Are we gonna say no? I mean, I'm gonna say no. Why is that just called sign? No, whatever. McFish. Sometime please go ahead and tell me the story behind that name. But thanks for the follow. Really appreciate that. Somehow you are tolerating listening to me non-stop babble about what it is I'm doing. Even though it's very easy to see what it is that I'm doing. There's an Afghan flag that'll have to do them. To be honest, that's the best they're gonna get. Either that, I'm gonna just get Remarkably Racist really fast, just put down an ISIS flag. So that's a 231. I don't want it right near the entrance. Yeah. And again, making sure the flag strings face inwards, you want to make sure that they are in the right place. Very important. They can just have themselves a little ANA flag. Oh, thanks, copy and paste. Or the wrong object. Now this is again one of those times where I need to take my two bar gates and close them again. Otherwise when I put these flagpoles down they're going to be the wrong spot. And then they need to be at 141, I think, to be the right rotation. That's actually what they can come like right over here. That's still quite slightly misaligned. A bit like that. That'll do. And then pop one of these down over here. Make sure that's kind of lined up. There we go. So those bar gates can be reopened. Let's see. So the watchtowers, they don't need sim or damage, and they're done. The workshop and the shed, they'll need simulation because they got doors on them. I'll take their damage away. Away they go. These guys, I've done all of them already, and they are done. Guardhouse again needs sim. Oh, that didn't show as having a door. It doesn't. Okay, so you can't go inside. And now flags always need simulation, otherwise they don't flap in the breeze, and that just looks ridiculous. They can go in here. No damage already. Fantastic. And there we have ourselves a little checkpoint. So let me throw down a me, and then we'll go have a look. And there's also the advantage of the fact that I'm not actually building a template, and I'm just kind of screwing around, because I don't really need to worry right now about you know, any of the multiplayer stuff I usually need to worry about. I can just come straight in and test it out. So a couple of things I always check is that the simulation objects actually simulate, so that I can close these if needed. The flags are blowing in the breeze. Be able to come over here and close this one as well, which is stunning. Should be able to open this gate. This is all the stuff that you know, you can look at checkboxes all day, but if you don't actually just get in and run around, you need to make sure that everything is actually running smoothly, otherwise you're going to have a bad time. Because someone will notice that your shit is broken, and then they will tell you about it. Ah, that does have a door. That's really weird. Oh, JBad just doesn't have their Eden shit taken care of, apparently. I mean, I can't necessarily blame them, but there you go. Open this motherfucker up. That door doesn't... there's nothing in there. Just Arma lies all the doors on that side. And then... look at them using computerized air traffic control. Excellent sight lines down the road. I don't have anything really obscuring my vision that I need to worry about, which is good. Obviously, as a checkpoint position. Now those trees that we took out behind us back, I don't have my CBA settings, so I can't point. Here in the middle of the screen, those trees that we took out before, I'll pop back into the editor and have a look at how many of those we can put back in. Go in here, we unlock our systems, which also means we need to unlock the entire compound. There we go. Number of trees. If I can put those back in, that would be nice. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to set this to be a square, and I might actually just take out literally inside the compound walls, I think. Because it's playing quite nicely, everything outside it. And even though there's no actual objects being hidden outside it, I prefer to have the module just over the objects you actually want to empty. It means that if someone else needs to pick up this mission file for whatever reason, or you know, we duplicate this compound somewhere else or what have you, you don't accidentally, you know, take stuff out along with it. So that is that. We'll lock that systems layer straight back away again, because otherwise it's super in the way. And I just needed to check these walls because I had a sneaking suspicion that I forgot to disable the sim on these pillars, but they are actually good to go. So I'm going to lock that back down again. Now the only issue we've got is that this bridge doesn't really feed very well through our roadblock position. So I've got a couple of different options. I can either, I mean, option one is obviously I just move the entire roadblock, which would actually not be all that hard to do. if I unlock everything, and then let's grab all of this, and then just slide this slightly back down the road. And I actually pop a tree back into existence here. It's actually kind of nice. I kind of like having that tree there. So we might actually do that. I was actually showing that as a reasons I'm not going to do it, but I am actually going to stick with it. The reason I wasn't going to do it is basically because as terrain shifts, it'll shift the object's height, and you basically just have to recheck walls are the big one. Especially these kind of complex walls with pillars on them. You just need to give them a quick scan and make sure that everything is still lining up nicely, and what have you. So, but that all looks pretty good. So then all we need to do is kind of facilitate this road feeding in. Now, there's a couple of different ways of doing that. I'm going to do it the cheating way, and I'm going to use just more concrete barriers. Now you could do it with, what are they called? Guardrails, I think they are called. I don't know why we have train tracks, given Arma still doesn't have trains, but you know, that's okay. Not those, also not those, also not those. Also not the guy in the background doing fucking manual labor. Sure, they were guardrails. Oh well, anyway, doesn't matter, not doing it. I'm going to use more of these little concrete barriers. I just have a weird thing for concrete barriers basically, but we're going to use, I don't kind of like the big ones, I might just use the little ones I think. Just the regular CNC barrier, not the CNC barrier stripes. So I'm going to do this the way I kind of always start making any kind of wall. I'll place down a rough number of units, Control 8, and then line pattern them. Now these guys are like a 4, would normally do. The 3 gives me a little bit of a gap between them. Let's see how a 3 goes. And why are you being see, if I'm doing them at a 3, I really need a 4th barrier. You've got to make sure you always drag everything back to ground afterwards, because when the line pattern script places them all kind of fucked up. I'm also pretty sure that these tools are from Earth-Rated Enhanced. I'm pretty sure. So you might need to grab that mod for that. It's part of the 506 mod pack, so I'm so used to it at this point. I forget where that specifically actually comes from. So now we're going to put those in on both sides, just to kind of try and join that up. And because anyone who drives knows that people can't drive, so I'm going to just real quick grab these and make a little divider here as well, just to try and create some semi-lanes in the hope that someone will learn how to actually drive in a productive manner. Now these guys need to be a little bit steeper in terms of angle. Now again, normally I'd probably figure this out mathematically, and I'd usually have those on about a 22 degree angle, but I am just going to eyeball it today, because apparently I am done doing things with maths. There we go. Super. Now there's a couple other. Again, you could put ground textures on to show how that, could work. I'm not doing that because I'm so done with ground textures today. I don't do them. They take substantially more time than you actually get benefit from them. Because the only thing you need to say to explain not having ground textures is, yeah, no one really uses the bridge. Okay, done. I don't need ground textures anymore, thanks very much. So, saves a lot of time that way. Now, we need some grass cutters. Everyone make sure you use grass cutters. Because if this is driven on often enough to have cut itself some ruts in the ground, then it's driven along often enough to not have grass on it. So we're just going to throw down, wow, the right one. Gee, complicated. There we go. Throw down some grass cutters, just to make sure that there is no grass on the roads, because Arma does not do that for you. Arma is like, yes, grass grows on roads. I would love if Arma was my gardener. That would actually be cool. If they can make grass grow on roads, then they can make my grass grow in my grass, frankly. That's also kind of annoying because I copy and pasted that one. It's not going to render the cut grass, so if you need to see it get cut, then you have to place a new one down. It will actually cut the grass though, it just doesn't render it in Eden, which is obviously super great. It's obviously my favorite thing in forever. Now, I'm going to just pop this on those barriers. Again, just because grass doesn't go through concrete, you know what I mean? Arma's ability for grass to magically clip through everything is kind of sensational. And I need it to stop. So, just going to pop some of that. Yeah, lovely. You can basically slam these guys down without any major performance hit, too, which is nice. Especially the vanilla ones. The vanilla ones are great. The cup ones are a little buggier, so I use the vanilla cutters where possible. But you get the massive cutter from cup. So let's grab those. Now we don't touch these at all because grass cutters can't take damage already. And you obviously need the simulation, otherwise you'll still have grass at the end of it. So we're going to do that. We're going to real quick pop back into single player just to test the fact that those cutters are actually cutting grass, essentially. Because the last thing you want to do is figure that out way too late after the fact. Then you'll just have a really bad time. Okay, just checking my emails for a second. Okay, so oh my god, that gate needs a freaking new motor in it. You see, like, it looks more realistic. I need to probably put a small cutter right at the door, like here, because there just shouldn't be that much grass there. But that's okay, we'll get that squared away. The other thing you need to check is grass coming through buildings, like that. So we'll need to come back here and put some grass cutters down. Because Arma loves me, essentially. So yeah, you see we've got a little bit of a gap through the grass now. I'm kind of fine with that. I don't really care if there's a bush there again. But saying people don't really use this bridge. I mean, look at the frickin'... Like, are you driving over that lip every day of the week? No, I am sure as shit not driving over that lip every day of the week. So I think that's probably going to be fine. That looked like it was floating. That's just on the end. It's just because it can't twist with the ground. It's probably not the end of the world. So that's all going pretty well. We got a little bit of grass incursion on the road here, which obviously that is just built in. We also got some float over here I hadn't noticed on all of those. So we'll pop back into Eden, we'll slam those back into the ground, and we'll cut some more grass. And basically rinse and repeat until the process is finished. But because for some reason I decided I felt like doing this today, I'm going to actually do that until the point arrives where I decide that I would rather kill myself than play Cut Some Grass Simulator anymore. basically where we're at. So these guys, let's touch them back down onto the ground, just on the off chance we can actually fix that one from floating. Obviously we cannot, because Arma, essentially. That's the, oh, okay, yep. Well, that guy was keen to go down. It's very exciting. And I'm just going to step away for 30 seconds, and I'll be right back. And I'm back. I have attempted to remove some of that offensive background noise. Make life a little bit easier for everybody. Now, what do we need to get rid of in here? I wanted to just cut out a little bit around this doorway. Wow, that medium is way too big. Okay, small. The thing to remember with grass cutters is that they cut in circles. So, just be aware of that when you smack them on the ground, that they are going to cut a circle shape. So you want it to kind of make sense wherever that circle should happen to appear. Which is genuinely one of those things that makes more sense when you're actually playing with them. Those guys away. And we'll block that all up. I think that is done with the floating now. I think that pretty much eliminates all of that, which looks pretty good to me. I mean, if we wanted to out here, we could put one of these little guard sheds. Which are, I mean, they're adorable. I don't know how realistic they are, but there you go. Definitely put one of those. I kind of want to line it up with the flagpole and everything. Yeah, why not? Let's get in it. Now, again, this is going to be one of those things where you're paying a guy to stand here, like however many hours of the day. Chances are, has worn some grass down. So I don't know about you, but I cannot stand in one place for 8 hours. There are not just going to be, 2 boot marks on the ground, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna not do that. Oh, good. The object I wanted, thanks Arma. Rotate the circular thing that is exactly the same on all sides. Precisely. You also have to get pretty good at remembering which objects face which way, I guess you should say, because according to Arma, this side here, this side is the front, not this side. So it can get pretty annoying when you're trying to rotate objects. And Arma's like, no, that's the front. Like, no, clearly not. This flagpole also looks like it's slightly in the wrong position now. Won't know how that happened, so I'm just going to slightly move it back in. And because Arma has also changed its position this way, I'm going to line it back up that way, and check it again this way, then we're good. And now again, 2 guard sheds. Going to take their everything away. Perfect. Those grass cutters are done as well. We can lock that bad boy up. There we go. Now the last thing I was going to try and look at was, let's go just fence, see if I can find what I'm looking for. None of those. None of those. Yeah. Gonna see, can I manage to clip one of these within my existing fence? It looks like I'll be able to fit it. Oh, it doesn't fit on the back side. Move it so it's in the middle. Move it up. Looks like the posts are gonna stick through. Oh, but yeah, side, front side. Let's dig him back in. Do you reckon? Let's just align him to the right number.
Our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate.
This is pretty good. This is working. Okay, great. So these are also 8-meter sections. So in theory, for my two side walls, this should be no problem whatsoever. I should need, how many of those have got? 1, 2, 3, I should need 4 of them. So let's go 1, 2, they are the wrong one. What I want. Oh, they're 10 meters. Of course they are. Of course they are. Well, I mean, there's really not a lot we're going to be able to do about that. Except, so if we grab 3 of them, so we'll be facing north. Well, that's kind of exciting. Line, let's set them to, not that, actually, set them to 10. Oh yeah, this is actually not going to go well at all. Okay, let's take this all over to the runway, because it is flat.
And no one will keep that light from shining.
Because yeah, all rotation 0. Let's just try this again. Let's do a line pattern of 15. They are not lining up. Not lining up height-wise either. There we go. One row, 3 columns. We're going along the X of 15 on the Y of 0. And stunning. Good work. Thanks, Arma. That looks better. There is a little bit of an overlap though, but I actually can't see it. I know it's there, so if I can't see it and I know it's there, no more chance does anybody else have. Okay, great. So we're going to copy these. I'm going to leave those there because I feel this going wrong again in approximately not a lot of time here. And we're going to paste a copy over here. And then align them to what roughly feels right. and all we're going to check for is how much extra do I need. That is bad. I need all three of those selected. If I sling these guys up, sling them up a fair way actually. If I lift them up to like here, because we have a shorter 5-meter variant. However, notice that the gap is in fact not 5 meters. And I feel like if I merge these guys together, if you overlap such a long section, I feel like that is noticeable. That's what I feel like. Which leaves us at a bit of a rough patch in terms of actually getting that resolved. But it is what it is. So, 231. Gonna pop it right as far down on the corner as we can. He needs to come back a fair amount, I think, to hide those units in. I think it's going to be tough to make that sit well, but we'll see what happens. I'll also set that to 231. I believe that is lined up. Interesting. That is also shifted when I let go vault, which is obviously stunning. Obviously exactly what I wanted. I have no idea what I'm doing about the backside of this. Literally none. And so typically this would be one of those situations where I would say, well, if you can't make it fit, probably don't do it. And I mean, I would not be wrong to say that. Because the thing is, to have this long enough to make those sections work would be irritating. So, look, as much as I like the Wild Boy fence, I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't think I'm going to make that work. I think I'm going to make it work well, so I'd rather not do it. to known pile of garbage. I kind of want a more slimline pile of garbage though. To make this little corner have a vague purpose. Yeah, deleted. Perfect. Now I think the last thing that little A&A compound needs is a little rest area for the enjoyment of the need to push screenshot still. People working here. So we're going to get the white garden table. I don't know why, but it's the one I like using. So that's what we're going to get some chairs. And we're going to learn how to spell chairs. We're going to learn how to spell chair because they're all singular. We want the plastic chair to go with the plastic table. Naturally, I'm going to grab a bunch of these. And then we are going to use another placement tool. Get them all selected. And so this at least gives us even distribution around the table, and then we can face them all sideways apparently as far as Arma's concerned, but face them so they're all looking into the table. And then I like to move them a little bit so they're not quite so uniform. But it just gives it a little, gives you a starting point. So, because humans are bad at random. We like to think we can do random, but at the end of the day you end up just with a series of patterns. So, like I've ended up here with groups of 2. That's why I put down a number to make it a little bit harder to do that. I also don't like that I've made it face that way. I'm going to just rotate the whole arrangement over like that. Same rules as always. We're going to slam a grass cutter under it. A large one is probably just too big. Medium is going to do just fine. We are going to get them like a net cover. Obviously means this is no longer a good place to sit. I'll just shift him slightly. It is slightly clipping into the building, but if I go the other way, it's going to slightly clip into the other building. I think I might have a tiny bit of space to borrow. There we go. We just hope no one notices those two tiny little corners still clipping in. And then gonna get some field toilets. Their door that just doesn't work. But do. You can disable damage and disable simulation. Excellent. Yeah, what are we gonna put them 141 number I'm using. And we're gonna pop 2 of them down. These guys I'm not going to worry too much about aligning them to be right. There we go. We're going to get a trash container over here. That's hinges back, pick it up from the front. It's in line with the big gates on the front, roughly. So in theory, a big top-loading garbage truck could come in and pick them up, although Arma doesn't have those. What a super big concern. Sim and damage. Okay. Again, not super worried about lining these up, because no one's ever gonna put them in the right spot. And if you are a garbage truck driver and you put your bins back in the right spot, then I applaud you, good sir. However, you also understand that you are by yourself and not necessary of representing in this video right now. While my Eden has totally locked up, there we go. I selected a vehicle and objects at the time, just like that. Alright. Okay, let's see what we've got. We've got our little guard houses, we've got our, they're still interactable, excellent. And see, it doesn't take a lot to, like, stuff like this, stuff like these, it doesn't take a lot of effort to throw those down. It does make an improvement to the way things feel. Even just that trash pile around the corner, because otherwise it would be like this big open gap. Basically no reason whatsoever. But it gives it a bit of a purpose to kind of the point. Okay, let's demonstrate my shockingly terrible driving skills. A few things I can highlight on. I do always make sure that if I make something that's meant to be driven through, you can actually drive it. It's a stupid fucking bridge. Probably already been done. We also, there's a disagreement over what side of the road people drive on in this country, so I just drive on both of them, just to evenly represent both sides of the argument. And I have my little A&A checkpoint. You can get out of the truck, open the gate back up. I think that's realistically going to be about it. That's what, an hour 30 so far? I think that's not as bad as we all thought that was going to be. And you'll see here too, like this is roughly where the overlap in these road textures are. It's just not noticeable. They don't kind of clip through each other or anything strange like that. They get weird rendering artifacts from it. So pretty survivable. But I always spend a good amount of time just running around everything I build, because you know, if again, this is not a template, this isn't kind of for anything, but if I was building this for a 506 task force, then you're gonna get 60 guys in here, and they're gonna run around it, and they're gonna see it. You know, they're gonna push through those buildings, they're gonna clear them out. You know, because as the guys in my missions team in S4, we never know really what we're building is going to be used for. Like, even if you're talking about a friendly cop, there's always the possibility that that cop becomes a defense mission. There's always the possibility that, you know, the base gets overrun. What if that base gets captured and we pull out of it? You know, you never really know exactly what's going to happen to something you build, because that's all down to the guys in S3 and, you know, our Zeus operators and everything to actually kind of put the mission itself together. So we never know what's going to happen. So I always like to spend time moving around it, making sure that, you know, let's say that, you know, this shed here or this shed here all of a sudden hold, you know, weapon caches, and we have to clear this out. Well then, okay, let's, you know, gonna get a squad worth of guys pushing in there, setting debt and pulling security around it or whatever. So you want to make sure that it's, you know, not clipping into the fence beside it, at least not, you know, throwing artifacts out of it. You want everything that makes sense, which is fine. So it's a important part of the process. But thanks for hanging out, guys. That's gonna actually wrap it up here for today. Just a fun little hangout before we get into kind of some of my more serious stuff I have to do for the rest of the evening. So hope that was I don't know, vaguely less boring than I imagined it was going to be. How's that for a sales pitch? Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any ongoing questions that you want me to answer, this video will obviously go up on my YouTube channel as well, with the links to the 506 forum. Feel free to leave a comment down the bottom with anything you want to know, and I'll do my best to answer it as best as I can. But thanks for hanging out. I hope you guys enjoyed me throwing together something that we'll never ever use ever. I'm going to go and close Eden and delete all of this for all of eternity. And I hope you guys have a good night. Thanks for hanging out.